Hello, this is Tony Blazier for the Motocross Vault presented by Blinzall. If you're in the market for some high-quality racing oil for your two-stroke or four, make sure you go to blinzall.com and use our discount code VAULT20 to save 20% at checkout. Thank you for all the support. Hello and welcome back to the Motocross Vault. My name is Tony Blazier, and what this video is going to be is just a quick rundown of my thoughts on the last 3 rounds and pretty much how the motocross season has gone so far. I love motocross. Motocross is, again, probably my favorite of the two over supercross. By the time supercross season gets here, of course, I'm super pumped for that. But in general, I love motocross. I grew up racing motocross, and it's really where my heart is. And I think this year has been phenomenal from start to finish, really. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented. I'm not sure that we've had, 6 winners in 6 events before. It's pretty amazing in terms of the 250 class, the parity there. I think the championship is still, down to a few guys. I don't think you're going to talk about like a J. League Swole or somebody probably winning the title, but it's great that he got a win there. You have, Justin Cooper, Hunter Lawrence, and Jet Lawrence putting on a great show at the front, but it's just been great because really you just don't know who's going to win each week. I think the problem, obviously, the last couple of rounds, Jet was doing so well early, and he's really kind of lost the ability to get a good start, it seems, the last few rounds, and that's putting him in bad positions. He keeps finding himself back in the pack, and then, of course, terrible things happen when you're in the pack. There's all those crazy people going every which way. I think that's kind of backfired on him, and it's really been Justin Cooper's thing. He's done a better job of getting towards the front early on, and I think that's why he's taking the points lead now, but I think it's still wide open. I just love seeing all these guys. I would, personally, I think I'd probably be rooting for Jet to win if I was going to say I have one guy to win. I wouldn't mind his brother 200. That'd be great to see. Wearing my Honda loyalty here today. But in general, I just love to see great racing. I really don't care who wins. It's so long as it's a good race, and that's what we've got. Every round has been exciting. RJ Hampshire's probably been maybe the fastest guy, but of course, yet once again, something went wrong with him yesterday. He ended up tangling with another rider at Spring Creek and getting a banner like really wedged into his motorcycle. I know when you think back to the season opener in 2009 for Supercross when Josh Grant got that banner stuck in his wheel on his JGR Yamaha, and how amazingly lucky he was to ride that thing to the finish, because you can see how poorly it can go when you get one of those banners in your wheel. It can quickly jam up the works, and as you see, it took like the entire crew to get that thing out of his tire yesterday. So that was kind of an ugly situation there with all those guys colliding. It was a good race, though. I love Spring Creek, Millville. It's a cool track. It does kind of suck, I think, that the whoops aren't nearly as big as they used to be. If you look at some of my old videos, like from the early 90s, man, those whoops used to be like probably double at least the size they are now. You certainly couldn't get on top of them and blitz them like they are now at warp speed. The guys on the 500 team were just kind of, wheeling and smashing through them, and they've made them much faster now. But the overall track is cool. I love the, Mount Martin and stuff is super fun to watch. Just a really great track. I've never actually been there myself, but it sure seems to be a fun track to watch on TV. But these last 3 rounds, Redbud, Southwick, and Spring Creek have been awesome. The racing has been so good at the front. I just love when there's not just a runaway by one person. And it's really been unpredictable. You finally had like Austin Faulkner kind of make a little showing of himself. Certainly in the second moto yesterday, that he has to be right up there with the most disappointing of anybody this year. I got to wonder, what the future looks like for this kid. He had so much promise early on, and sometimes, injuries and stuff start compounding, and I wonder if he's going to be able to make it back. I think, the talk is that he was moving to the factory Kawasaki team and stuff, and you have to wonder how they're feeling about that now with seeing how tough things are going this year for him. Joe Shimoda, who had been the best guy for the Pro Circuit team, had a bit of an off day yesterday, but in general, he's been really surprising. And again, I think he might be one of the best Japanese riders of all time. Certainly since Akira Narita. Obviously, Akira Narita is right up there in that conversation, but he never was as competitive in the U.S., at least when he came over here to ride, as Joe Shimoda has been so far. So it's pretty impressive showing by him. Really, really kind of a surprise. I really didn't expect much from him when he moved over to Pro Circuit from losing his ride at Geico. So good for him. It's been a great hire for Mitch, and a great season for at least trying to salvage something for Pro Circuit. It's hard to believe a few years ago they were such a powerhouse where they'd get the top 4 positions, and Mitch really hasn't had that in quite a few years now. So it's been a very competitive. Now kind of the star Yamaha is taking that position at the front. I will say this, it does seem like the Hondas are much more competitive this year. I know that Jeremy Martin had issues with saying that the Yamahas are so much faster, essentially, last year, and it seems that the Hondas are much more competitive and a little more parity at the front. So that's good. I'm glad to see that. I was super pumped to see Jeremy Martin come out and win, go 1-1 yesterday at Millville. He has had a tough year with all these injuries and stuff, and it's kind of hard to imagine. I was thinking yesterday when they put this stat up that he won this title last in 2015. So it seems like in my mind he's, a 250 national champion recently, but check, it's been 6 years. So that's a long time and, some severe injuries ago. So it's great to see him still competitive and up front. It's hard to believe he would lose his ride. You hear these rumors that he might not have a ride with Star next year, but that would be kind of mind-blowing. I mean, how hard is it to find somebody who can actually win? Jeremy's a proven commodity there. Other than getting hurt, he's proven that he can win at any level. So, I don't know. Be curious to see. I hope he makes a fight of it. He's probably out of the title. I think he's some, 75 points or so out of the title chase at this point. So, it's probably tough after missing those rounds with the injury. But you never know. It's a 250 class is so unpredictable, so you never know what's going to happen there. And a lot could go on between now and the end of the season. We're only at the halfway point. So, so far, really great racing in terms of the 250 class. In the 450 class, kind of took a major blow yesterday with Kenny getting run over in the first turn. He came back to win the second moto, but it was a big blow. He lost 25 points right there in that moto, and Ferrandis was already pulling away a little bit. Ferrandis was showing how consistent he was, and he did have a little bit of a problem in the second moto, but still I think he salvaged a fifth out of it. So it's not like he's having these 12ths or 15ths that would let everybody else get in it. It really looks like it's Ferrandis' year this year. Kudos to him. I certainly did not see it coming, but he has been so darn fast. It's been, very impressive, very impressive. I mean, it's not like people talk of him, oh, he's a 250 rookie. I think he's the same age as Kenny. These guys that spend a couple years in Europe and then come over here, their careers, other than Kenny who came over pretty early, their careers are a little pushed back. So even though he's a 450 rookie, he's past the age where Jeff Stanton was already retired. So if you're thinking about that, the guys used to retire at 25. I think maybe Rick Johnson too, 25, 26. So he would have already won all his titles and retired at this point. So he's not a kid by any means, but still impressive by Dylan. Definitely looks like his title to win. Kenny's shown that he still has the speed to win. He's not as consistent. The 2016 Kenny where he's rattling off these moto wins one after another just isn't there anymore. When he's on, he's clearly on. Like the second moto yesterday, he came out and just put it on a clinic. That was awesome to watch, kind of salvage the day as much as he could, and he's going to need Dylan to have a problem, I think. And Dylan so far has shown the ability to get a bad start, come through the pack, have a problem, still salvage it. Like last week when his bike looked like it might expire at Southwick, he babied it and still ended up getting a third, I think. So really, really impressive ride so far for Kenny. Eli would look like he was on fire in that first moto yesterday. Last couple rounds, he's like Mr. Second Moto, although yesterday didn't prove to be that way. But he looked like the old Eli. He was freaking flying out there. I was like, holy crap. It was so fun to watch. I really thought he was going to win the thing. And it seemed like he kind of, maybe burned himself up coming through the pack and didn't have anything at the end. But still a really, really, really impressive ride. He was just on fire there for about 90% of that moto before he kind of petered out at the end. Up front, you had Barcia winning. I was happy for Barcia. I've never been the biggest Justin Barcia fan. He's always kind of struck me as a little bit cocky for my taste, but he is entertaining. But man, he withstood the pressure, and that was a really, really, really impressive ride because Dylan was all over him, and then he was riding a bit of a wide bike a couple times. The one thing about Barcia, he's not going to let you just ride around him. So he definitely was putting up a fight, and to his credit, he didn't break, and it was a great, great win. I'm happy for Gas. I mean, really, Gas is just KTM. No matter what anybody tells you, it's all the same thing, really. But it is technically a new team, and I was happy for Troy Lee Design. Certainly, they hadn't been supporting the 450, so good win for them. They got, I guess, one win in Supercross now, and then one win outdoors. So that's been definitely good for them as a team, and I'm happy for Justin to get that win. I still think he's third in the series. He's not. I wouldn't say he's fast enough and consistent enough to really put much of a threat for the title, but you don't know. I would imagine that by the end of this, Eli, who's just a little bit, I think, 2 points behind him, will probably pass him for third. But it's hard to say. I mean, if Eli actually could ride like he did yesterday, get good starts, and start cranking off these wins, he might actually give Dylan a run. But he put himself in such a hole early on with those, 8s and 9s and what have you. It's kind of hard to see him really making a charge for the front. But again, we're only at the halfway mark. So many things could happen. People always say, "Oh, it's over." All it takes is Dylan's bike to blow, or have it get taken out in the first turn in a DNF. Look what happened to Cooper Webb yesterday. It's not like he was having a great season anyway, but he ends up hitting another guy when they scrub the jump, flies off the track and has a pretty bad wreck. I think he's okay, but it was pretty ugly. And I tell you what's always surprising. I always wonder why these guys do that. They're scrubbing like with abandon right next to other people, and I'm always thinking somebody's going to hit somebody here. I mean, it's like normally they're doing it in the same direction, so it's not so bad. They scrubbed opposite directions, so that's what kind of caught them. But it still seems just crazy dangerous when you're flying right next to somebody to do that. And it finally bit Cooper, and he kind of had a little bit of a yard sale there. But it wasn't like he was having a great season anyway. Him and Muscan, definitely not great. I guess, with Gas winning, it helps, KTM corporate feel a little better about the day. But the factory KTM team, at least in the outdoors, has not lived up to expectations, certainly. It's been a tough year with, El Hombre out, and then Cooper having kind of a lackluster year, and Marv not doing so well. So definitely been a season of up and downs. In general, though, I'd say this has been it was great racing. I mean, the 450s, 250s, I mean, there hardly has been any just runaways. I guess Dylan kind of did that a little bit last week in the first moto at Southwick, but for the most part, it's been great racing every week, and even in the 450 class, it's been unpredictable. I just love it. It's been a great, certainly one of the best seasons in the recent years, I'd say. We're not sure who's going to win. Dylan, I think, is probably the odds-on favorite, but I think it's still anybody's game at this point. It's too much racing to go to call it. The tracks have been great. I love the fact that don't seem to be ripping it as much, and again, I'm not sure if that's a conscious decision by the promoters, but we haven't seen any of the slot car racing this year that I just hate. I hate when tracks are just nothing but, giant combs of ruts going everywhere. It makes it hard for the riders to kind of pick different lines. And these tracks allow people to go in, go outside, under and around, and move around the track a little bit more. And I think the racing has been better for it, in my personal opinion. I always hated tracks that were super rutty. I didn't feel comfortable on them. So I don't think some of these guys obviously excel in it, but I think it makes it harder. You get trapped into a line, and it's hard to make adjustments. And the fact that the track prep has been a little different this year, I think it's led to some of this good racing. I hope the promoters look at this and say, look, I think it actually does translate to a more racy track in the long run, and not have it ripped quite so deep and so ruddy. The guys allows them more options in each turn, and maybe it lets a guy like Eli come through the pack and stuff, so a little bit better. So in any case, great racing, great year so far. I'm super pumped to see how the rest of it turns out. If I had my druthers, I would probably say I'd like to have Kenny and then Jet win. Put on my little Honda Red here, but I'd be happy no matter who wins, as long as it's a good series to the very end. I'm super pumped to see the racing, and just happy that it's been exciting so far. So I'd love to hear what y'all think out there. What do you think of the racing so far? It's been a great year, and let's hope the rest of the season turns out just as exciting. So I'll talk to you soon. Adios. Keep the rubber side down. Peace.